Family Time on GFM 96.6.
Right, now one of your endorsers of I should say one of your endorsers of the book, Joan Morgan, also an author in her own right, she's mentioned that she has retired from being a strong black woman, and she explains the reason why she's made this statement, and I will read it once again for our listeners. And she states, "I realize my retirement requires explanation. This is not to be confused with being strong, black, and a woman. I'm still all of that. What I kicked to the curb was the years of social conditioning that told me it was my destiny to live my life as a black superwoman. That by the sole virtues of my race and gender, I was supposed to be the consummate professional, handle my life crisis, be the dependable rock for every soul who needed me, and yes, the classic, require less from my lovers than they did from me, because after all, I was the strong black woman and they were just endangered black men." Wow. I just went, wow, and I just went, wow. And Alti in the studio, my guest, she's shaking her head saying powerful. So please, enlighten us more.
Well, Joan talks a lot about her challenge and her own journey to free herself from the strong black woman archetype. And I want to talk about that because, Joan's writing, as well as the writings of Bell Hooks, and Bell Hooks is a personal friend of mine as well, really helped shape my own thinking. And one of the things that's important to understand is that, we live in a world of duality.
Right.
So you have black and you have white, and one exists so that the other can exist. Well, the archetype and the stereotypes of strong black women exist so that other stereotypes can exist.
Okay.
And those other stereotypes exist, thereby demanding the existence of the stereotype and the archetype of strong black women. And one of the stereotypes that goes hand in hand with strong black women is endangered or weak black men.
Wow.
And so, a lot of times when I was on book tour with this book, I would hear from angry black men calling in, trying to say, well, don't we have it rougher than black women? And isn't our plot in life really more challenging? And don't we experience more oppression than black women? And I'm like, well, first of all, you didn't experience childbirth.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
That in and of itself, is more than most men can even imagine. But secondly, this isn't a conversation about who gets it worse.
Right.
This is a conversation about the responsibility that we have as black people and as men and women to take care of each other.
Yes. Yes.
And that's the part that I think that I really try to bring forward in the book.
Right.
I have a responsibility as a black man to take care of myself, and I have an equal responsibility to support the self-care and good care of black women. Okay.
Well, that brings me into another chapter of yours where you talk about intimacy. And in here, I'm going to quote you here, you talk about intimacy, that we all crave intimacy, to love and to be loved in that personal, private, complete, open way, as you put it. And you go on to say, yet many of the sisters you've talked with, they have experienced a lot of isolation and alienation in their romantic and platonic relationships. And I thought that was really interesting. I'd like to get your further thoughts on that.
Well, I wrote a whole chapter on called Abandoned Ship.
Yes, I was going to go into that one.
I talk a lot about the ways in which black women experience abandonment. And I have to be honest and say that as a black man, until I started listening and interviewing these 150 black women, I never even ever thought about the abandonment. I never thought about the ways in which women feel abandoned or could feel abandoned by the things that their own brothers and husbands and fathers and lovers do to them. And something as simple as saying, I'm going to call you, and I don't call.
Yes, amen.
It's a profound act of abandonment.
Yes.
And it's not a little thing. It's a huge thing because, of course, if I can't count on you to do the little things, then how can I rely upon you to do the things that are necessary and vital.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and so that was what I was talking about. That and if a person can't be counted upon, if you can't count upon another person, there is no intimacy.
No,
there's no space for intimacy.
Yes,
in your relationship.
Right.
So there's a responsibility piece that I think that I try to talk about, and it translates into how people show up in intimate relationships with each other, whether they're romantic or platonic.
Okay. Now, staying on with the abandonment, I'm going to read something here that because with abandonment, any of us can be abandoned in different ways. And within your book, you've listed some ways that we can experience abandonment. We have, children being left by their father or mother, and feeling deserted by a friend. That's also a form of abandonment. And then and aloneness, not by choice. Feelings of isolation within a relationship. So sometimes we singles may see a couple together thinking, wow, but we don't know what's going on in that relationship. And, once again, as I said, as women, when we get together, we talk. And we do talk. Men is not so good at talking to each other as we are as women, because we share virtually almost everything. And we talk about our feelings. And I know that at times I've had friends who said within a relationship they feel so isolated. So they can do bad all by themselves, they say. So they might as well either leave the relationship, or try and work on it. I'd like to read something here from the book. You said, strong black women respond to abandonment in a number of ways, but there are two that stands out for you in particularly. And they either love harder or more desperately than before when they sense of abandonment, or they build a wall around their heart as thick as one around Fort Knox. And call it a defense mechanism because we've experienced being left or abandoned or whatever. That was a very interesting point, and I laughed about that. I laughed not because it was fun, but because it was so true. And sometimes when something hits a nerve, you cannot help but either laugh, either cry. As my mother used to say, you either laugh or you cry.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, do you have anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Well, I think that, when I wrote that, one of the things that I think I also talk about is that every woman in the world and every man in the world deserves what I refer to as good loving.
Yes.
And that we have to look at how abandonment and how our response to abandonment actually causes us to sabotage the good loving, access to the good loving that we deserve, and that might even be available. Right. Okay. So, I hear, I don't hear a lot of women, but I've heard from time to time women say, oh, well, men are this or men are that or men are dogs. I've heard men make similar comments. And really, what it led me to really look at is, well, you've gotten really good at defining all of the hazardous qualities that and conditions that show up in relationships. But can you tell me what the signs of a good man are? Right, okay. Can you tell me what the signs of a good woman are? Because that's what you're looking for. That's where the good loving lives. Yes. So if you can only figure out where the dogs lie, oh, he's a dog or she's a dog, so to speak. Yes. Then that's what you're going to be looking at. And that's what you're going to be identifying. Right. You're going to be trying to figure out how much of a dog is he, so to speak. So if you can let go of that and focus on the signs of a good man. Yes. And I went to good men and I asked them, what are the signs of a good man? What are the things that you would advise your wives, sisters, daughters, mothers to look for in selecting a good and proper mate? Right, Toby. And they talked about it. Toby, can I stop you there? Because I've just got a text in, and the text says, I really like Toby. Cannot wait to get my book. Don't give away too much. Okay. So what I'm going to do, because I have another guest in the studio, and what I'd like to do, Toby, if you are willing to invite you in the studio again, perhaps in the next couple of weeks, and we can go on from here, because we could go on
on for forever and a day, you know, because there's so much. And it is, I do encourage people to buy the book, because I am right in saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Toby, that it's also a self-help book. Because in there you have affirmations and you have things for us that we can do.
I have exercises. I have an affirmation at the end of every chapter.
That's right.
That is intended for you to use it. If being abandoned is what's on your mind,
yes,
then what I want to do is give you an affirmation that you can think about throughout the day. And I'd like to just read the one on abandoned ships. It says, "Today my love will overpower any hurt and abandonment in my life.
Right.
I will be gentle with myself. I will respond victoriously to my fears. I will embrace my love freely."
Okay.
So hopefully you can affirm that through your words and your reactions to the world today, if what you're feeling is a sense of loss or loneliness or abandonment.
Oh, thank you. And you know, Toby, what we're going to end here, but I want to say thank you, a big thank you to you for just taking the time.
You,
and what we'll do, I'll be back in touch with you, and we'll see if we can arrange it again for us to do this again. And we'll talk about, hopefully, a book about the real lives of the strong black man, because we need that. We need that book, Toby.
Yeah, I know. I know. Well, I'll tell you the story about that book. It's finished.
Yes.
But I think I told you the story. We can talk about that at a later time.
Yeah. Blessings to you, and thank you again for your time. God bless.
Bye.
Yes. Bye-bye.
That's the word. You heard me?
GFM.